Well, welcome back to Level Up Russellville. Today we're joined by Tammy Janssen from the Green Thumb Nursery.
Hi,
Welcome.
how are you?
I'm doing
Good.
great. So tell us a bit about what Green Thumb Nursery does, because we were just talking about it a second ago, and there's several really interesting things there.
So, most people think of us as a retail nursery. So, we sell flowers and vegetables and all those different seasonal plants. So, we have a really big spring with all the spring flowers. We have a big fall with mums and all that. And then we have trees and shrubs. So that's probably what most people think about what we are, but we do a lot more. So we do have house plants. We have started branching out into some landscaping. Last year we didn't advertise a lot. We just, as customers came in and asked, then we would pick up some jobs and do those. And it did really well. So this year we're really going to expand that and start advertising that we do commercial and residential. We've done some things for tech. We've done some things for the Russellville School District and some other businesses in town where we come and do their pots for them outside their store. So, we that's something that we love to do, and it makes people feel nice when their businesses look nice, in their homes. So we've expanded that. We do field trips for the school district. We have had, 15 or 20 in the spring each year, and schools from even 45 minutes to an hour away have come to do that because
Really?
it's a unique that.
What grades are you typically? It's all over?
We've done all grades. We've done kindergarten even into middle school. And then we've done some summer programs with some daycares, and counseling associates have brought some students in some summer programs they have. We've gone to schools and done planting classes after school programs. So we've done all ages. It doesn't really, but I'm a retired teacher, so that is just something I wanted to do. And so when they call, we adjust our field trip based off the age group. So we do different things.
What's their favorite, like across the board, what do you think the favorite thing is for the kids?
Well, it just depends. The different age groups like different things. But we try to incorporate some things that are not just plants, because not all kids like plants. And, it still has to be fun. When I was a school teacher, we took them places if the whole time it was learning, and then we'd start, losing them because they wanted to have some fun the day away from school. So we do some planting activities. We do some activities on like plant life cycle. But we also do some scavenger hunts where they can hunt for different things in the garden or around the facility. And as a teacher, I know that we teach a lot of that in the spring in the classroom. So I try to incorporate the things I know that teachers are teaching. But we also have the Secret Garden, which is a greenhouse that is covered in wisteria. And so it makes kind of a tunnel. We call it the Secret Garden. And the reason why we call it Secret Garden is because when I first bought the property, you could not see it. The place was so overgrown, except for one tiny hole. And I went and peeked through it and I saw it. So it was hidden, so I call it Secret Garden. But anyway, we do yoga inside the greenhouse with the kids. And, but that's just kind of a strategy to teach them also about how you can just relax and enjoy nature. They love it. So some kids really liked the plant that they get to take home with them. We usually do succulents because it's an easy plant. And so we teach them about it. They get to take that home. They really love it. But a lot of kids like that Secret Garden yoga too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, that's...
But, as a teacher, we had to leave Russellville to go to field trips. There were no places
Really? No,
that were really available except going to the park. And while the park's fun, there were just not anything here in Russellville or even in Pope County that I could think of. I'm not saying there's not. There's not anything we utilized. There wasn't anything that was advertised that we could find. So we always left the county to go, to field trips. So it was important to me to try to incorporate something that we could do here in town, because I know that teachers can do little half-day trips But if you're having to leave town, you can't do half-day field trips because it takes a whole day, you know. So, and that's usually what our field trips last, is about 3 or 4 hours. So, you know, we bought picnic tables. They can eat lunch while they're there. So I've tried to really do a lot with that, because I was just trying to think of what I would have enjoyed as a teacher, being able to do something here in Russellville.
How do you advertise that to the schools? Did you just have contacts from when you were teaching?
I do. And we made some brochures. And so we'll, you know, leave those in the store, pass them out. I've advertised on Facebook, and then just word of mouth, you know. So it's grown. I mean, a lot of schools in the county are coming now. And then we have some, you know, even Lamar and, you know, Wonderview, I think, came. And we've had some other schools outside the county coming. And so it's just bringing people here. But I can't think of any other place that has a nursery. And kids don't even know what a nursery is. If you tell them, they think baby nursery.
Yeah, that's...
You know, so, and we talk about that. But, you know, and I mean, you go to Lowe's, that's the only thing or Walmart, and you see the plants. That's really the only experience kids have with a garden center, you know. So when they come here and see all the plants and how we care for them, it sparks a lot of attention by them. I mean, we see them out at events or at Walmart, and the kids are like, "My succulent's still alive." You know, they remember you. So that, I mean, that's a big deal. You know, it's part of that building community, and we're starting them young, you know. And I always loved doing planting with kids when I was a teacher, but I just didn't have enough time, you know, in the day. So
it probably introduces kids to it in a way, like you said, a way they wouldn't have experienced otherwise.
Right.
Maybe gets them interested.
Yeah.
And in the spring, I haven't seen it in the spring, so I imagine it's...
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
How many years have you been in business now?
This will be our starting of our third year. We opened in the fall, so we just had a few months that first year. So this will be the start of our third full year. But anyway, we've been open officially 2.5 years. You know.
Do you feel like, you know, I guess in your business is kind of a toddler, right? Do you feel that way? Do you feel like it's matured a lot, or? I
feel like we've grown a lot. We have made a lot of changes. Things that we did in the beginning, we don't do now necessarily. We've added a lot, but it's just a constant change, because we're trying to figure, you know, out what do the community want. So we do constantly change things, and the property is still in progress of being revitalized. So every time we clean out a new area, because, you know, it was just left sitting for about 15 years.
What's the history of the area?
So the nursery was opened, I'm not sure exactly what year it was opened. I know some of the sidewalks say 1976. But the gentleman, Paul Jackson, used to live on the property, and he started that. And it was a very important nursery in the community. And then it closed, and somebody bought it, but it was never opened after the property was purchased, and it just grew up over 15 years or so. I'm not sure exactly how many years, but it was about 15. And I sent you a video this morning that shows what it looked like before. It's incredible, the difference. And there's still a lot to be done. But, you know, that's just, it takes time. And, you know, we pretty much just have 2 full-time employees, myself and a part-time employee. And so we just do it as we have time, especially this time of year when we have a little bit of downtime. So, but anyway, it was an important in the community. People come in all the time and say, "Oh, I used to come here when I was a kid, and I'm so glad to see it open." And so that makes me feel good too, you know, is taking an eyesore, you know, and fixing it up. And
I don't know about other people, but sometimes there have been like eyesores, and there still are around town, and you just kind of, after a while, you're just used to it. So you don't even really look at it. And I bet there's some people that are, do you ever get people come in and saying, "I didn't know you were even here"?
Yes.
Does anybody ever say that?
We still go, we try to hit all the events that that are offered in town, with vendors. And, we'll do an event on the other side of town, and people come in and they still don't know we're open. And I'm like, that is just like 4 miles,
Yeah.
But it's because most of the business is on the east side of town. So a lot of times they don't venture out this way. And so, we're still in that process of getting people aware that we're there. Because the younger generation doesn't remember Jackson's being there, And there were shrubs and trees growing up. You couldn't even see it from the road hardly, when we first purchased it. So, but now people are starting to stop in and say, oh, I just now noticed your sign. It's been there almost 3 years, but, it just takes time. So
one of the things I find most interesting about what y'all are doing is the classes and the education front, because this is something my wife and I have been talking about and trying to educate ourselves more on, which is gardening and growing our own food. And I know nothing about it, I've heard it called the lost art. Were you the one that told me that?
I did.
Lost art. So what's your plan? What are you currently doing with that now? And then what's your plan in the future?
Well, like I say, I have that teacher background. So when I was teaching, but I was off in the summer, different times. So I was always had lots of time to garden. And we have a little hobby farm at our house. And so what I call a hobby farm.
What is a hobby farm?
Well, I call it a hobby farm because it started out as a hobby, a little bit of gardening. It grew big. A few fruit trees grew big, and a few farm animals. But so I call it my hobby, but it would be probably a farm to some people.
How much food does that generate for y'all? Is that most of your food?
I can enough for a whole year.
Wow.
I give my whole family, 5 siblings and their families and my parents and friends. And
can enough for like everybody.
Well, and I just give them fresh, And during COVID, I donated some lettuce and different things to the food thing in Dover for the kids that were getting food boxes. I give away more than I can. So that's more than a hobby, I know. But and then I can some things like salsa and jams, and I bring them to the store and sell some of the items at the store. But so it generates a lot. But anyway,
how big does a garden have to be for, say, like a 4-person family to like really make a difference in their
it
food?
Just depends on what you're planning. It just depends. But smaller than you think. I have 18 raised beds at the nursery. I have 25 at home.
Oh, wow.
And when I say raised, these are big, 4 by 12 and 20 something of that, But you would not need to.
So if you had one of those or 2 of those or 3 of those, what would that look like, you think?
You could do, enough tomatoes for, you would need 1 tomato plant or 1 squash,
So 1 tomato plant, because I'm someone, again, that's never grown anything. 1 tomato plant has a yield of however many tomatoes.
And it depends on what kind of tomato.
Does the yield happen all at once, or is it spread out over a season?
There's different kinds of tomatoes. So some produce within a 3-week period of each other, like all at one time, which is great if you're going to can.
Yeah, but not great if you're trying to use that.
But if you're wanting to eat them every day, you need to plant the other kind. And they will produce all season. And sometimes they've produced up until the frost in the fall, where I just pull them up because I'm so sick of it, But anyway, so all this, people would started sending me messages, asking me messages on Facebook, calling me, coming by, wanting me to teach them some of the organic skills that I've taught myself over the years because of bees, hives that we had. And I loved sharing that passion of gardening. If you get me talking on gardening, just like when you used to get me talking about teaching, I'll talk forever. So that was kind of what led to the education piece at the nursery. Because I love teaching. I really do like sharing knowledge. And why should somebody do all the research that I've done for all these years if I can pass that on? I learned a lot from my grandparents, but more than anything, I learned the passion, because I don't remember what they taught me when I was a kid very much. I remember some, but not a lot. But it sparked the love of gardening enough for me that I went and did the research and taught myself. That's what I hope for kids and other people. And I've had adults in the adult classes I do that have come back and said, you gave me the courage to start just by taking that class. And for me, that's what it's about, is because people say they have brown thumbs. It's really just because they don't have experience. And you just got to not be afraid to just try it. And if you fail, then, because trust me, I have failed. And you just got to, but that's what the class is for, is really just kind of an introductory. But I have customers that text me when it's about to snow and say, what do I need to do? Because it's getting cold. And they send me messages. I answer those because it's a lifelong relationship you build with people. Mm-hmm. They don't know. They've never gardened till this year. And all of a sudden, they've still got plants because it's warm. But now we're going to get cold. I think that's something you get from our nursery that you don't get from other people is that personal connection. And like, we really care because that's why we did it. That's why we opened this nursery, is to build a community of gardeners and somewhere you can go and find somebody that has some knowledge. And if we don't know the answer, then we say, let me look it up, or I'll get back to you. And you're not going to get that at the big box stores and stuff. And I don't know that there's a place, around that you can really get that personal attention, because we'll sit and talk to customers for longer than we need to sometimes. But
yeah. So my wife at one point she was trying to start from seeds for a bunch of different vegetables. And, I think she learned some things, but it didn't work. Something happened. There was like this fungus or something. And is that pretty common for a beginner to struggle from that stage?
Yeah. I do some seed starting classes, or that's kind of the first class we do in a gardening series, in the spring. I think every gardener should try, but it's probably not something that should be your first thing you try with gardening, because you'll get frustrated and then quit. Mm-hmm. So you probably should just start by buying plants and being successful with something. And then, not that you can't try, but you have to know that you might fail that first year. I still do seeds, and sometimes they don't come up. I mean, because it might be something wrong with the seed packet. Maybe it's old, Mm. But
can you walk me through, like, for a complete beginner, let's just say they wanted to grow, there was a tomato, a potato, whatever one of the easier ones are, and something they can do, like, how much do they have to invest? And then what are the general steps? Like, say if they wanted to start growing tomatoes or potatoes or...
Well, so the first thing we do in the gardening class is you have to have a list of what you want to do. What is your family going to eat? And I would say, don't go big and do them all. Pick the one that you think that your family, or a few that you think your family is going to enjoy the most.
So what is that for your family?
I mean, I can potatoes. A lot of people don't even know that you can can them.
I didn't know that either.
You
can them whole?
I do them whole, but I also cut them up into chunks, and they're pretty much cooked. All I have to do, and they're the little new potatoes, or I'll take bigger ones and cut them, and they're ready to put in a roast, or they're ready to put into soup. I mean, they're already ready. All you have to do is just heat them up, or sometimes I just put them in a pan with some butter and saute them or whatever. I can enough for the entire year. Probably 100 pint jars or quart jars.
Just from one. It's not a plant, a potato. It's a root, right?
It starts from the potato, but it does grow a plant. The plant gets really big. Okay. Now, I do a lot of potatoes. I mean, I have a bed that's 4 foot wide, 24 foot long. And so it's a lot of potatoes. I mean, I probably do 150 pounds of potatoes that I grow.
More than a small family would need.
Way more than a small family, because I give them to I give them to people. Plus, I also save some of those, store them all the way through the winter, and I use them for my seeds next year. And so I don't have to, and I know they're organic, so I don't have to go buy them. So I save, and so I have potatoes that are in my closet that are just starting to get little sprouts.
How do you store a potato?
It just has to be a cool, dark spot with no moisture. And my grandfather used to do that in the barn, or in like the cellar. And And
they
I just
keep
remember, and they would keep for a whole year.
Well,
I have some that I could still eat today that I harvested in July, and they're still good. But it's just all about, you got to figure out ways. But that's part of the gardening classes we do. We can talk about those things. But we eat a lot of those. But probably squash, cucumbers, tomatoes are probably the most important. They also take up the most space, though. They take a lot.
Just the plants?
The plant themselves get pretty big. But, you can do them in tubs. So you could put one tomato. You could put one, the squash plants. Mm-hmm. So if you did tubs this big, and we do some container, we talk about some container gardening as an option in my class too. So even if you didn't have a place for a raised bed or garden space, because you're in an apartment and you only have a little deck or whatever, you could have tubs. One tomato plant.
And they're still going to taste better than the store? They're
still going to taste better in the store.
Even
because the store has to think about shipping. Yeah. So they pick a lot of that stuff when it's still kind of green so that it will ripen off. And once it comes off that vine, the sun is no longer ripening it naturally. So it's not as sweet. They don't have as much flavor because they're ripening artificially. You know what I mean? And so the flavor doesn't really develop much more after it comes off. And they look beautiful because they're being sprayed with all kinds of stuff.
I didn't realize until the other day, I had forgotten the massive difference, like fresh food versus the store. I had an apple from a farm, and I was blown away.
Yeah, and I think gardeners do have to, and I try to talk to people about this a lot. You have to realize your vegetables or your fruit is not going to look like what's in the store. Because it's in a controlled, they have very controlled environments, and unless you just want to control it that much. But I try to do more organic, as organic as I can. I'm not saying 100%, but it tastes better. It just doesn't always look as pretty. Yeah. So, but I mean, in the classes we do, we talk about how to prune them, how to take care of them, diseases, pests, how you can plant things that help with all that. We just do a little bit of everything.
So how many classes does someone have to go to? Like, what's the typical, from beginner to now they're growing some tomatoes? Is it one class, two classes, is it a monthly sort of setup?
I offer them all throughout the spring, usually till the end of April, maybe the 1st of May. And I try to plan enough that kind of gets you through the whole process other than harvesting. Because now we do some harvesting, but there's a lot to do before they even produce. A lot of things it's going to take 3 months to produce. Some things not as much, depending on what it is. But you got to keep that plant alive and healthy until that point. And those things affect the harvest. So, we'll talk about how to prune them, how to care for them, how to, make it produce more. I mean, just a lot of different things. But I actually will sit down with them during the class and kind of help them plan out where you plant, what you plant beside it, which ones need more sun. And so we can actually plan out where to put each plant in your garden.
Okay.
And those are things that I learned just from experience. And I still change things up sometimes because I'm like, man, because some summers are hotter than others. So you have to think about, you can't think about what it is right now. You have to think about what it's going to be in July, when it's hot. So.
Okay. I have one more question. It's kind of a specific question, but I want to get to the bottom of it. So say you have a small tub, whatever size a small tub is. You have a tomato plant in there. Would you just leave it as a tomato plant, or would you put something else in there with it?
If it's just a small tub, I would put just a tomato.
You wouldn't put any complementary plants to help?
I would put some complementary, but no other bigger plants. Right. So I would put things in there that would help with pest control and flavor. So basil enhances the flavor. It actually makes the tomato taste better. It gives it more flavor. So I would put some basil in there. I would put things that drew in pollinators. And because a lot of people will say, I have these plants, but they're just not making very much. They're probably not getting pollinated enough, because if somebody's spraying around you and there's not a whole lot of bees or butterflies. Of course, there's things that There's a lot more pollinators besides bees. But you need to plant to draw in as many good bugs.
So what,
we call them
brings
beneficial.
in pollinators? Flowers?
Flowers, herbs.
Flowers and herbs.
Flowers and herbs. So, but I would definitely plant petunias because they help with tomato hornworms. I would plant basil because it repels pests. There's other herbs that you can put in there too. So, but I would just put those around, and in a small tub you would just put one of each or something like that. But and I have some signs hanging up in the store. Well, it's actually in one of the greenhouses that talks about that has beneficial information, like things you can plant to repel and things you can, good bugs, bad bugs. We do a lot of talking about that in the classes. There are good bugs and bad bugs.
What do you think it would look like if more people, how many people in Russellville, or just our community in general, not necessarily just Russellville, do you think garden? If you had to put a percentage on it, 5%, 10%?
Less than 10, I would say.
So what do you think it would look like if 50%
if you're talking about
were doing
vegetable gardening.
Yeah, let's talk, say vegetable, or just gardening in general. Let's just say there's triple the amount of people doing it one day. What do you think that would do to our community? Would it make a big difference in the way we live our lives?
I mean, you're more self-sustainable for sure for yourself. And vegetables are so expensive, and people sometimes can't afford to buy those. They'll buy canned vegetables because it's so much cheaper. Yeah. Fresh vegetables and fresh fruit are so expensive. So I think people don't buy those as much because of the cost. So if you're growing some of yours, you're going to be healthier, and man, it just, people that are gardeners are just kind of community oriented. And I think the master,
because you have extra food, so you got to do something with it. You're not going to throw it away.
I mean, you just get together and you're like, hey, let's go. I don't know. I think it just would, if there were more people gardening, it's a sense of accomplishment. It gets people out of the house. And that's what I love about kids, is because kids are on videos and stuff so much. So, but I can go outside, and when I'm out there for a little bit and just getting that vitamin D from the sun and experience the outdoors, and then just eating better, I think that's just would be good for everybody,
No, I agree.
So, but I think, especially during COVID, when people didn't want to get out and different things, being able to, be a little more self-sustainable during hard times, and you don't have to do it on a huge scale. You could have an apartment and still do some small stuff,
Yeah.
You just have to be selective about what you do.
Yeah. How do people, well, before I ask you that, I was going to ask, how do people sign up for classes? But I want to ask you this, because you mentioned apartments. I've seen these things, they look really cool. And they're not in apartments, but like, what are they called? Recessed, right behind the sink. Some houses have like a little place where they got some vegetables or something growing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Maybe.
I don't know. Okay, well,
Maybe.
They look really cool. And we're building, I may have mentioned this to you, but my wife and I, we're going to build a cob house. Did I tell you about that?
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah.
It's built out of mud. Basically, they look really cool. It's kind of like adobe.
Yeah.
And we're definitely wanting to incorporate heavily some gardens into this whole thing.
The thing about gardening indoors, you have to think about pollinating. You're not going to have a pollinator. There are ways to pollinate food without bugs, though. And because like mass growers, like huge commercial, they don't have bugs in those huge greenhouses. So they have to figure out ways to do it. And there are ways. I mean, you can use a blow dryer and emulate wind. And some of those things that just, are self-pollinating. You can do it with paintbrushes. I mean, it's a little more tedious. And you have to have enough space and enough for that plant and enough sun. But, some things don't have to be pollinated.
What about microgreens? You ever do anything with microgreens?
I haven't. I have bought some seeds. I just haven't got to the point where I've ventured there because, like right now I have probably 300 or 400 seedlings that I've planted in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Microgreens, you have to stay on top of them, I think, and because the point of those is you harvest them when they're really small.
I think so. Yeah,
And so I haven't ventured that way because it's just the time,
yeah, set up and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've come across recently several YouTube channels talking about growing microgreens and people not just using them, I guess, to eat, but also they're selling them.
Yeah.
People are making money.
I think I
farming
saw somebody on the community market that we have that you can order.
the Russellville Community Market.
Yeah, I think I see sometimes that somebody sells
there is somebody.
microgreens on there. Yeah.
Do you use that very often? Russellville
I have a
Community
few
Market?
times. Yeah.
Yeah, I just picked up the other day.
I mean, I grow most of my own stuff,
Yeah.
but
Do you sell anything on there?
I have not, because I just usually bring what I have to the store. But there are some things I can't because of the retail space that I could probably sell on there instead. But I've bought pumpkins on there from Drury Farms because they use them, and so they would sell to me wholesale. So I've bought through that, and so there are things I buy on there that I don't grow myself, but I try. I have most of my own. So
Ariel is the person running the operation. She'll be on here one of these days. She told me, saying, I don't know if this is confirmed, but they will be getting chicken on there soon.
Oh.
Which that's the one thing. I'm like, why don't they have chicken on here?
Well, Ariel actually delivered the pumpkins personally to the nursery, a whole truckload, and loaded and unloaded those. So she actually went and picked them up for me and brought them to me. So
Yep, she's nice.
that's
Shout
good
out to
service.
Ariel
Yeah,
if you listen to this. So as far as booking classes go, when somebody wants to do that, is it on your website? They just go on there and
It is.
take care of that?
So if you just go to our website, which is www.thegreenthumbnursery.com, then on the first page, it has all the events. I mean, we do other events besides just gardening stuff because not everybody likes gardening. And so, like, I'm doing an art therapy painting class because I like doing that too. My mom and I have always painted. So I'm doing a painting class Saturday. We've done some flower arranging, like wreath classes, terrarium parties, birthday parties, baby showers. I mean, but you have to call for that kind of stuff. But if it's some kind of a workshop, then we have them on the. But also, sometimes technology or people aren't always good with technology. So if you can't figure out the website and how to order the tickets, you can always call us. And we can take care of it over the phone.
You have to call ahead, though.
You have to call ahead only because, when you're doing parties, you have to have a certain amount of materials. And if you just show up, I would hate to be able to turn somebody away because we didn't have enough supplies. And, being a small business, it's not, we're not like the big box that can afford to keep tons of extra stock, So I would hate to do a terrarium party where I needed 50 and I had 100 people show up and I just don't have enough plants, because, like I say, there's just really 4 employees right now, which we're going to have to expand. But so we have to keep what we can take care of, So that's the reason why. That's the only reason why we have. And we hate to spend time to get everything set up and then one person show up. So it's really more of a RSVP type thing, Now, we do some that don't cost. Like we did a free seed exchange and I've done gardening classes for free sometimes. But then we also have some that because I have to pay, I have to pay employees to come in and help those things. So if there's a cost, it's usually just to cover the supplies and employee costs. But
what do you think because you mentioned being a small business, there's challenges. 3 years in, that's longer than a lot of businesses make it. But what's the biggest lesson you've learned?
I mean, I was a school teacher. And then when I decided to retire, my husband's like, so what are you going to do? Because I'm still young, youngish. But I said, I just want to garden. And he was like, okay, let's make it happen. And I was like, really? How do you take a hobby, or a hobby lifestyle, and turn it into a business? But we did it. And it's been more than I anticipated because in my mind, I was going to open a little place, But then we stumbled upon the nursery and bought it. And it's ended up being much bigger, which is good. But I had never ran a business. So just there's so much to figure out. And I think I've done a pretty good job. I mean, it's been a learning experience, but there's so many taxes to pay and license to get and, human resources taking care of all the paperwork for new employees and, just ordering. And so I'm the bookkeeper, the technology person. I run the website. I order all the stuff. I'm actually out doing landscaping. I mean, so I'm in everything that we do. This year, I'm going to delegate better. But the reason why I was doing all that is because I was trying to figure out how to run the business, and I need to be there to figure it out.
It's hard to delegate if you don't know what they should be doing, I guess.
And, my sons came to work for me, and then I have Kat, but none of us had worked for a nursery before, and none of us had ran a business. And so I just took what I knew about plants and my passion for plants. And every day I get up and people are like, how do you know what you're doing? And I'm like, I don't. I wake up every day and I'm like, I'm just going to make it happen and I'm going to figure it out. And I've had to change, things and make adjustments. And my husband is such a support and he has ran a business before. We have another business and then he runs a company. But so although he did say, this is your baby, I'm not running it because he's so busy, But
at least he's there to.
But he is there because I'm like,
hey,
okay, so
this is a mistake.
How do I pay that? How do I file this? Or and he is so supportive. I mean, he told me to quit a career that I had gone to college and got a master's and all these other degrees, just because he knew that was my passion and I loved it. And so this would not even happen had he not been supportive of a dream of mine. But I think it's just the hardest part about it all or not the hardest, but probably the biggest thing I've learned is just how to juggle so many different things. And to be in the third year, I'm going to make changes in delegating a little bit more. He's the one that kind of really encourages me to keep going on days when I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but I guess I faked it well. I don't know, I won't say I fake it till you make it. But, and that's what he tells me every day. You just have to get up and tackle that day. And if it doesn't work, then try something else. And if it doesn't work, try something else. But my biggest thing is I've had to really learn how to deal with, if it doesn't work, move past it, because not being a business owner before, but we've made a big business work and it's grown and it's successful, but I mean it's still challenging being a small business trying to get started. It takes a lot of funds. It takes, especially when you're revitalizing a place that has sat for so long, and it takes a lot of time, but it doesn't feel like work when you enjoy it.
Something you love.
Yeah, that's right.
I like that. This show is, a lot of people we have on here are people that are entrepreneurs, and you've taken, you started off in the, educational world and you went to school, and that's something that you still took all of that experiences, all of that teaching, all of that learning, and just applied it, like you said, just applied it to what you were passionate about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome to see.
I wish there was training courses on how to be a business owner. And there is. I mean, you can get a business degree. But I don't think even a college business degree really teaches you how to open up a business. They teach you how maybe to run one.
They teach you maybe the taxes and the things that.
But know how to file them online.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much more to business owning than just.
You got to do everything.
Yeah.
You got, or at least you have to take care of everything. You have to delegate everything out.
Yeah, it's
And you have to have hopefully people around you that, or at least have the wherewithal yourself to be like, okay, this isn't working. You got to change, because some people, they'll just take their idea and they won't change anything about it, and then they fail.
Yeah, and you just have to always adjust. I've bought too much stock. I haven't bought enough stock. I have too many employees, not enough employees. So you're constantly having to make changes. And then every year I feel like some parts of it I'm starting over every year, but it's because we've grown. And so you feel growing pains when you're doing that. That's a good problem to have, but you got to figure out how to, do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I grew up in Russellville, and my family has been involved in the community for a long time. And so it was important to me to do something that would make Russellville proud, and I'm invested in the community. I live in Dover, but, and I taught Dover, taught in Russellville, and I've lived here, but I'm still very invested in Russellville, just because this is where I grew up, and I like being involved in, and we do a lot of different things in the community.
To me, this area is so small that Pottsville, Dover, Dardanelle, it's all kind of, pretty much the same place.
And we just like the rural setting. I can have chickens and goats and donkey and garden and all that stuff. And
you can't do that in Russellville, but you can do it in
Dover, I guess you could, but the space, you need space. And so, and then I have 60 fruit trees and I don't know, probably 20 pecan trees, and it's a lot. But to be able to do those things, you have to have more space. And so it makes sense living out of town. But and my husband's from Dover. That's where he graduated.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think that, again, you had a very unique take, and we were kind of talking about this a minute ago. I was talking to you about businesses competing with each other in these small towns, but which you're doing this, but if you do, what's in line with your passions, and no one can compete with you, right? Because then they would be trying to be you. Like if you do what only you can do, you really don't have any competition.
Well, and here's what I tell the employees. You're not going to know every answer that everybody comes in and asks you. And that's okay. What our customers, what I want to relay to them is if we don't know, we're going to find out that if we can. And so I've told the employees, don't act like if you don't, just say, I'm not sure, let me check that out. So, and you're not going to get that at big box stores. And I'm not even saying anything big about, we need those stores. I shop at them. But they don't specialize in any one thing particular. They have a whole lot of things. Yeah. And so what I want people to feel like when they come there is that we are really there to try to help. And we're there to talk to you. I have a great front porch with rocking chairs. Come up, sit, we'll talk garden, So I just want it to be a place that people feel like they really can come for knowledge, even if it's knowledge we don't have that we're going to figure out, So, and that's the teacher part of me. I'm always teaching myself new skills. I'm like, I can make pottery. I'll just try to make pottery. Or I can, before I came this morning, I was pouring concrete planters, making my own concrete planters.
Have you ever done that before?
Yeah, I have. But it was a skill I taught myself last year. And so I'm always like, I see these things that I can buy for the store, and I'm like, I can make that, So, but I've never been afraid to try something. So,
is this the first podcast that you've been on?
It is the first podcast.
There you go. You came right in.
Yeah, but I did make a YouTube video with a local.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Beginning gardening with Jill. I made a YouTube video with her on raised beds, and I'm going to be making another one.
Almost February. 1 million views, right?
Yeah, 900 and some thousand. It's crazy. But I am doing a YouTube video with her on how to prune fruit trees later in the month, and so. And I need to start making more videos on these gardening skills because sometimes people work and they just can't come to the classes. And it's hard to offer to classes that meet time needs for everybody, So, and I try to offer them at different times, but it just doesn't always, work out. So, anyway.
Well, yes, to recap, Green Thumb Nursery offers, not just the retail end, but also landscaping, classes, workshops, and then the whole venue is open to pretty much anything you want, right? Yeah. Weddings.
Yeah, we're doing a wedding in the secret garden in July.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
I know. And then we also did, we do arrangements and stuff for people and send to funeral homes sometimes. And we do quite a bit of that. And we post online that Kat is fabulous at making arrangements. And so we're going to venture out and you can hire us to do some events, some arrangements and stuff for that. So we're going to start trying to venture out. We may not take on a lot, it just may be kind of a trial period this year and try some of that. So, but you can always ask us.
Yeah.
Even if it's a skill we haven't done, that doesn't mean we won't try. So we're always open to new things because I always like a new challenge, so.
Excellent. What's the address for the nursery?
4001 West Main Street.
4001 West Main Street, and then the greenthumbnursery.com.
We have Facebook and
Instagram. And the phone number? Like your
479-567-5456. Excellent.
Well, Tammy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing everything about the Green Thumb Nursery and just the past 3 years, of business that you've gone through.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's going well. Thanks.
And for everyone listening, go check her out. Go check out Green Thumb Nursery. And thank you for listening. Bye-bye.